Rob Reiner's inner circle is in mourning as 2 days after the When Harry Met Sally director and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found murdered in their Los Angeles home. Billy Crystal and several of the couple's closest friends came together to release a joint tribute. And when Billy Crystal was first asked about the passing of his closest lifelong friend and Rob's wife inside their Brentwood home, he uttered a short but heavy sentence, saying he didn't listen to my warning, and from that deeply personal grief Billy unexpectedly spoke out, revealing chilling details about long-simmering tensions before the tragedy, unusual signs at the scene, and suspicions surrounding those closest within Rob's own family. Details that had never been publicly mentioned before, as he later recounted to a small circle of trusted reporters that a pivotal conversation took place on the afternoon of Sunday, November 30th, 2025, in the ground-floor living room of Rob Reiner's home on Chadbourne Avenue in Brentwood, exactly 14 days before the incident occurred, when Billy arrived shortly after 4 p.m. following a brief phone call initiated by Rob, who plainly said, "Come over, I need to talk to you for a bit. This isn't about a movie," and Billy recalled that from the moment Rob opened the door, he seemed noticeably different, dressed less neatly than usual with a wrinkled shirt, rolled-up sleeves, uncombed hair, and a weaker handshake, leading Billy into the living room without turning on the television or playing music as he normally would, pouring water but not drinking it, his eyes repeatedly drifting toward the hallway. A detail that immediately unsettled Billy because Rob had never shown such visible tension in his own private space. And after a few minutes of silence, Rob spoke first in a lower, hoarser voice, saying, "Things at home are a mess right now and I haven't told anyone this, but I'm truly exhausted." And when Billy asked what was going on, Rob went straight to talking about Nick Reiner, explaining that Nick had gone through a serious relapse episode in early November followed by clear changes in behavior, becoming frequently irritable, reacting intensely to minor remarks, and returning home some evenings in an unstable state that forced Michelle to leave the bedroom to avoid confrontation. Mentioning a specific incident about a week before Thanksgiving when Nick and Rob had a major argument in the kitchen over money and treatment, and although Rob did not recount the exact words, he admitted the moment gave him chills because he realized he could no longer predict his son's next reaction, pausing for a long time, rubbing his forehead, and staring at the floor with a look Billy described not as anger but prolonged exhaustion, the erosion of certainty. As Rob went on to say, he was trying to keep Nick close, believing his presence might help stabilize him, slowly saying a sentence Billy would later recall many times, that he was only afraid that one day if he pushed him away he would be the last person to cause him to fall apart, while tightly interlacing his fingers as if struggling to contain his emotions. And at that moment Billy responded more firmly than ever before, sitting up straight and telling Rob that while he understood what kind of father he was, he believed Rob was trading away his own safety and Michelle's, stressing that uncontrolled behavior inside the family home should not be taken lightly, and that trust in family bonds is natural, but clearer boundaries were necessary instead of silent endurance. And Rob listened without interrupting, lifting his head with visibly red eyes, and replying softly that he heard him but could not see his own son as a threat, explaining that Nick had gone through many dark periods before, and he feared one hard move at the wrong moment could push everything beyond control, leaning back and sighing deeply as if uncertain himself, ending the conversation with an unusual heaviness as Rob stood, walked to the window overlooking the backyard where the family once gathered, gently patted Billy on the shoulder, and said he would rethink everything after Thanksgiving, leaving Billy to depart at dusk with a lingering unease and a single thought that something was deeply wrong. A private conversation that after the tragedy caused many details of the Brentwood case to be viewed from a different angle, because when Billy later read about what happened his first reaction was that it was very different from the Rob he knew, noting not only the seriousness of the incident but the sequence in which everything unfolded, as the Brentwood house had never been a place of prolonged silence, always maintaining a steady rhythm of visitors and schedules. Yet the situation was discovered only when someone arrived according to plan, knocked repeatedly, and received no response, raising the question of why so much time passed unnoticed. And when family members encountered the scene, Romy entered first, saw her father and panicked, running back outside, while Michelle was found in a different location, a detail that chilled Billy because it showed they were not together when everything happened, matching Rob's earlier words that tensions at home did not erupt in a single place, but moved from room to room in stages, and Billy could not ignore the length of time before discovery. Knowing there was a considerable delay between when events took place and when help was called, something unlike Rob, who reacted quickly when family was involved. The house remaining quiet for many hours, reminding Billy of Rob's words that sometimes the atmosphere at home felt frighteningly quiet. And from Billy's perspective, having heard Rob describe emotional flare-ups, the nature of the injuries suggested a situation unfolding under extreme tension where long-suppressed emotions were pushed beyond their limit, closely matching what Rob had described about moments when Nick lost control and everything happened too quickly for intervention, further convincing Billy when he learned the house was not heavily disturbed, which did not align with an external intrusion, as he knew every habit and living space in that home, and the familiar surroundings suggested something intimate and everyday, making it deeply unsettling. And he could not forget Romy's panic, so intense she could not remain inside even briefly, mirroring Billy's own sense of being blindsided when he read the earliest descriptions. And the detail that troubled him most was Nick's absence when everything was discovered, which immediately pulled Billy back to that afternoon weeks earlier when Rob admitted he could no longer predict his son's reactions, making Nick's absence feel like a missing piece that brought Billy's warning into sharp focus. And as Billy put these details together, the scene felt like the endpoint of a long chain of warnings rather than an isolated tragedy, shifting the story toward internal tensions. And while others pieced together fragments, Billy found himself asking not what happened, but who left the house before discovery, as learning Nick was not present brought back the same heaviness he felt leaving Rob's house weeks earlier, recalling Nick's long struggles with addiction, repeated treatment attempts, relapses, and periods of disappearing from family life. So when Billy heard that Nick was absent, his mind returned to Rob's admission about unpredictability. Under pressure, compounded by quiet talk, Billy later heard that Nick and Rob had a fairly intense argument the night before at a Christmas gathering hosted by Conan O'Brien.